Welcome to the Great Basin Prescribed Fire and Smoke Transport Briefing for Friday, April 3rd. Currently, we have quite a bit of prescribed fire occurring up north across Idaho into Wyoming, and even a few prescribed fires down south. Otherwise, we have had some new wildfires across the region, all on the smaller side, which would be normal for this time of year, especially with our drier conditions. Over the last 7 to 14 days, really over the last week, we've seen a storm system move through the region, bringing us much needed precipitation, especially across the northern half of the Great Basin. These areas across Idaho into northern Nevada and even pockets in Utah and Nevada further south have seen well above normal for the 1 week period at least over the last 7 days. We also had new snowfall across the region in the higher terrain, especially up north across Idaho and Wyoming, where we saw anywhere from 12 to 18 inches or more in the higher elevations. We also saw some snowfall totals above a foot in parts of northern Utah, northern Nevada, and even in the High Sierra. We actually had some new snowfall in the higher elevations of the mountains of southern Utah, but obviously amount-wise quite a bit less. And our snow depth is over here on the right, obviously tied to the higher elevations, but our snowpack still remains well below normal across much of the region. The only areas a little bit higher remain central Idaho into parts of western Wyoming. Looking at our current ERCs have taken a dramatic decrease and will continue dropping here over the next day or so before we start to see warmer and drier weather with ERCs continuing to trend back upwards. We will remain above normal, really with ERCs across much of the region over the next 5 to 7 days, and some areas over the southern half of the region are still near maximums for the time of year. Looking at the weather pattern for today, we have this area of low pressure that will be exiting the region and heading into the central Rockies. So we still will see some remaining showers over western Wyoming, and there are winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories out for eastern Idaho into western Wyoming today. Otherwise, warmer and drier weather will start pushing into the Great Basin today and continue through the weekend. Winds will still remain quite breezy over the eastern half of the region, so we will have high dispersion in most areas. And you can see that on the transport winds, the gusty winds across much of the higher elevations of Utah, up north, and then even down into southern Nevada, where we will see those wind gusts between about 30 and 40 miles per hour. Mixing heights will remain moderate to high. Temperatures today will still remain on the cool side, although they will be closer to normal over western areas of the Great Basin, but will be definitely cooler with highs in the 40s over the eastern half of the region, while that area of low pressure is still impacting the far east before it starts to push into the Rockies. Relative humidity will be driest over the southern areas of the Great Basin, where we will see those single-digit RHs. Obviously, up north, where we still have that moisture lingering, we will see higher relative humidity. As we move into Saturday, the ridge starts to build into the Great Basin, so again, warmer, drier conditions region-wide. Still some good dispersion over southern areas, but we will see much weaker winds up north. And you can see that on the transport winds, any of those breezy winds really being in northwest Arizona or far southern areas of the Great Basin. Mixing heights will remain moderate to high. Temperatures will continue to climb. We will see many areas that were in the 40s today bounce back into the 50s to around 60 degrees in the eastern side of the Great Basin, and will be approaching 70 degrees over western areas. Relative humidity will continue to decrease region-wide. On Sunday, the ridge is really generally overhead the Great Basin, so we will see those temperatures continue to warm, where we will see temperatures anywhere from 10 to 15 degrees above normal, going later in the weekend into the early part of next week. Winds will remain light on Sunday, and mixing heights will remain high. Temperatures, again, continue to warm, where we'll see, again, highs mostly 10 to 15 degrees above normal on the western and southern side of the Great Basin. Obviously still well above normal further east, but maybe not quite as warm until we get into early next week. Relative humidity will remain in the single digits to teens in most areas, with the exception of Idaho and Wyoming. Really not much on the precipitation map for the next 3 days. Anything that occurs up in eastern Idaho and western Wyoming will be today as that system exits, and then we will see those drier conditions. On Monday, we still have a ridge generally overhead. We could see some moisture starting to creep its way up north by Monday or Tuesday, with possibly some isolated thunderstorms in parts of the Arizona Strip or Utah, but otherwise still generally dry conditions with fairly good dispersion. On Tuesday, we do have another area of low pressure that will start dropping south into the northern Rockies, so that will start to kick up winds, especially across the northern areas of the Great Basin, so we could see some pretty gusty winds on Tuesday, and obviously dispersion will be improving as those winds settle in. That system continues to drop south and east on Wednesday, and we also have a couple other areas of low pressure off the west coast, which will also be impacting the region as we go through the end of the week. So we will see some changes in the weather as we go through next week, both with respect to wind, and we will see a drop in temperature and increased moisture, especially mid to late week. And looking at the 7-day total precipitation, this is through next Thursday. Much of this will be occurring towards the middle of next week. So you can see as those storms move in, we will see some additional precipitation and even some higher elevation snowfall, really to the northern 2/3 of the Great Basin. Some of the drier spots will remain the far south, parts of eastern Utah, and maybe even the lower elevations of Idaho. The 8 to 14-day outlook, taking us from April 10th through the 16th, shows generally warmer temperatures, but not the extreme heat wave we have been seeing, and precipitation generally near to above normal across the Great Basin as we continue to see storms move through the region. So definitely a wetter month on tap for April. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back on Monday for the latest updates.